Hi, everyone. The alarming rate of insufficient sleep among Americans means that there's a high likelihood that many of your clients are struggling to get enough rest, even if they're not bringing it up in their sessions with you. And with the COVID-19 pandemic, sleep problems have only intensified. There are numerous negative, short, and long term consequences of sleep deprivation, including impacts on mental and physical health, safety, and quality of life. And clinicians are uniquely positioned to help. Hi, I'm Victoria Franz, clinical psychologist on the PESI team. I'm here with Catherine Darley, naturopathic doctor and leader in integrative sleep medicine. Dr. Darley founded the Institute of Naturopathic Sleep Medicine in Seattle, Washington, to promote the use of natural, behavioral, and lifestyle medicine in the treatment of sleep disorders. She has published in journals and appeared in print and television media. And pretty cool, Dr. Darley co-led the Start School Later initiative in Seattle, which resulted in approval of later, healthier start time for local high school students. Dr. Darley will be teaching her program Sleep and Mental Health, Non-Medication Interventions to Restore Sleep Quality and Improve Clinical Outcomes on March 17th and on April 8th. Welcome, Dr. Darley.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here with you all.
So I'd love to ask you some questions about your work. I'd love to ask about your expertise. Why should clinicians be asking clients about sleep?
Well, for one thing, sleep health has really been minimized in our society. I'd say for the first 20 years or so of my career, it was really an argument for why people should even pay attention to their sleep or why I even had a business focusing on this. Thankfully, I think in the last 5 years or so, we're seeing sleep health has much broader appeal to people, and people are really focusing on it more. And certainly with the pandemic, we're seeing that grow. One of the things that I've been really concerned about is the number of people who are not getting sufficient sleep. It's about 35% of Americans who aren't getting adequate sleep most nights. And that's huge. When we talk later about some of the impacts sleep has, if more than 1 in 3 adults is not getting adequate rest, it's going to have an impact on their health and on their ability to interact well with others. And then there's some populations that are even more sleep deprived. Actually, the most sleep deprived group is police officers and law enforcement, and that can affect their health and well-being and ability to perform on the job and interact with the community well and all that. And then the age group that is the most sleep deprived is teens. And I just really love to work with teens because they deserve to get the rest they need to do well in the world. The other reason I think clinicians should be asking their clients about sleep is just the high number of people who have insomnia, and it's correlated with mental health issues. It's actually about 75% of people who have depression also have insomnia. And when you're not sleeping, it can promote depression. And so we want to really be, I think about it as giving help and treatment support at both sides of the equation. We're going to do specific depression focused treatments, and we're also going to do specific sleep and insomnia focused treatments both, so we can uplift a person's health in both ways.
Yes, strikes me as a clinician that the sleep problems don't generally resolve on their own just because you've resolved some depression symptoms.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely true.
What are some of the key questions that clinicians should be asking to assess their clients' sleep?
Well, the first thing I think to ask, which is one of my most favorite questions, is to ask how much sleep does your client do best with? And what's interesting when I ask that question, people will often say, well, I can get by on XYZ amount of sleep. We're not asking how much they can get by on. We really want to know how much makes them feel at the top of their game, right? And and kind of reframe it that that's what we should be going for, is how much, the amount of sleep that makes them feel really well, as opposed to how much sleep they can scrape by on. And once you find that out, find out if they are consistently getting that. And there's this myth that you can make up your sleep on weekends. If you're not getting adequate sleep night by night, it's going to impact your well-being immediately the day following. And so one of my colleagues gave this analogy once with teenagers. Well, you wouldn't feed your teenagers only 70% of the food they needed Monday through Friday and then say, oh, they could just pig out on the weekends. That wouldn't make any sense at all. And sleep is really the same. You need to get sufficient sleep night after night after night. And the other piece that I really think is central, and I'm glad it's also getting a little more attention, though I still think not enough, is to find out if your patients are night owls or morning people, and if they can sleep at the hours that are natural for them. One of the things that we know is that people who are night owls actually are at increased risk of mental health problems, impulsivity, risk-taking problems, and addiction. And it's unclear yet whether it's an inherent feature of being a night owl, or more likely it could be a feature of just being out of rhythm with their natural sleep times and having to kind of grapple with being chronically sleep deprived because they can't sleep at those later hours that are natural for them.
I love that analogy that you shared about the food and how no one would recommend 70% of the food during the week and then the full amount on the weekend. That's so helpful in understanding how important sleep is, and how just planning to get most of your sleep on the weekend just doesn't make sense. Can you tell us a little bit more about what are some of these negative consequences of not getting enough sleep? Like, incentivize us. Why should we try to sleep better? What would we get out of that?
So I think about the negative consequences in 5 domains. You've got your physical and mental health, right? You've got your physical and cognitive performance. And then you also have your social emotional intelligence. And so, when we're working with clients, we want to meet them where they're at, right? And you've got a broad spectrum of concerns that your clients are reaching out to you and initiating treatment, right? Whether they're having difficulty getting along with people, right? Maybe at work, maybe at home. One of the things that's really interesting is, for example, if I'm sleep deprived and I come into the office and I look at you, Victoria, I'm not going to be able to tell as well if you're happy or angry. So think about all the times that your clients are walking into their home environment, their work environment. If they're chronically sleep deprived and they can't accurately assess and then respond to the people in their life, that's going to have some ramifications, right, in the social sphere. So that's one example of that social emotional intelligence that is impaired by sleep problems. The other thing, I mentioned was physical and mental health. Certainly, if someone has panic disorder, their panic attacks are going to be increased with inadequate sleep. And they may not be making that connection, and that you, as an informed clinician, can help them maybe see that pattern, right? And then address sleep. That's probably not going to be the entire solution to their problem, but it's going to minimize, right? Or they're going to know, okay, if I don't get enough sleep and as I'm going to travel for this wedding, I might have increased panic attacks, right? And so they can prepare. Then there's those physical health, actually. So many people struggle with their weight. One of the things that happens when we're sleep deprived, which is really pretty interesting, is that our appetite changes and we'll tend to eat about 300 calories more a day, which may not sound like a lot. 300 calories a day for a year is equivalent to 30 pounds. So it can really add up. And certainly that's something you're probably hearing some of your clients express concern about is their weight, right? And then there's cardiovascular disease, cancer, just lots, hypertension. Many of those common concerns are contributed to by sleep. And then there's that physical and mental performance, whether you have someone who's driving and noticing that they're sleepy on the road. This would be a physical performance. And then there's cognitive performance. In our lives, we all have a broad spectrum of cognitive tasks we need to do. We need to remember somebody's name, right? A simple memory fact. And then we also have complex problem solving, which, with the pandemic and everything in the last years, all of us have had to do more problem solving than in the past. And that creativity is going to be impaired when we're not getting the sleep that we need.
Okay, lots of reasons to work on sleep. Catherine, you're going to be teaching some classes coming up. Can you give us an example of one or two strategies that clinicians can expect to learn if they sign up?
Sure. So, one of the first recommended treatments for insomnia is called cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. And we're actually going to go through the four main components of that. Unfortunately, even though it's one of the first recommended treatments, there's not enough practitioners who know how to do it. And so it can be hard for people to find knowledgeable providers. And we're going to go into those four components, how to do the sleep restriction piece, which really is a misnomer. That should be called time in bed restriction. Doesn't roll off the tongue quite as easily, right? But restricting a person's time in bed is a great and useful strategy, and how to do that properly. We're going to talk about that cognitive reframing piece. And I think about people's sleep thoughts in two camps: sleep promoting thoughts and sleep disrupting thoughts. And what we're going to talk about in the course is how to reframe those sleep disrupting thoughts into sleep promoting thoughts. Then we'll talk about stimulus control, which is really kind of based on Pavlovian principles. You want people to have a strong psychological, physiological response to their bed with sleep, right? And then sleep hygiene, relaxation, those pieces. We'll be talking about that. And then I like this idea of a sleep healthy lifestyle. I don't think that's an idea that is very prevalent, but there's ways that you can design your lifestyle, including how much light you get during the day, what time you get light. All the participants in the class will do a sleep healthy lifestyle worksheet for themselves and make a plan. I'm going to challenge people to do the plan for 10 days, really see how it goes for their own health so they can speak from experience with their clients. And then we'll also, once we do that plan, we're going to talk about barriers, because that's where the rubber really meets the road with these recommendations that we give to our clients, right? We could do a great plan, but if a barrier comes up to someone's mind and they're thinking, this is a great plan, but there's no way I can do it because my child or my work schedule or whatever, we're going to think through those as a group so that we can all be more skillful in anticipating and addressing those barriers to really help our clients have success improving their sleep.
I so appreciate that piece. It's so true that a clinician can have the most brilliant intervention, but if there's a barrier for your client, it's not going to happen. Thank you so much, Catherine, for being here with us. We hope that you'll be joining us. We hope that those watching will be joining us at the upcoming trainings. Again, March 17th and April 8th. You can sign up at the link below. Have a good night's rest, everyone. Take good care. Thank you for being here.